Hi, Andy. Great to have
Hi,
you on
Jocelle.
the show.
Great
Can
to
you
be here.
quickly, thank you. Could you kind of introduce yourself a little bit to our audiences?
Yes, so my name is Andy Yeo, and I'm a songwriter and guitarist currently based in Sweden.
Hmm.
And I just released my debut album. It's called Haw Par Villa, and
Hmm.
it's named after the theme park in Singapore. And I work a lot with music that's based on and contains a lot of improvisation. For example, my album would probably be categorized as jazz to most
Hmm.
listeners, but I jump a lot creatively between different genres. For example, I've written a lot of electronic music and techno for dance companies, and I also sing in a post-punk band called Darkling. And
Cool.
so musically, there's a lot of different things going on.
Right.
And on top of that, I also do like a lot of visual stuff. I usually do all the artwork for my different projects and some videos and animations and things like that.
So you, as you mentioned, you're a guitarist with Singaporean and Swedish background, right?
Mhm,
So,
mhm.
when was like the last time you were back, and like what are some of the key memories you had of being in Singapore? Like, did you come back for like long periods at a time, or was it mostly like holidays kind of thing?
Yeah, usually when I go there, I try to stay like a minimum of a month, and hopefully more
Nice,
than that. So
nice.
anything less than that is it's not worth it, I feel. But
That's very
yeah,
long, I
so
would say, for like for Singapore, because a lot of people think that it's like,
yeah,
oh,
I
just a
know.
3-4 day kind of place. So that's really
Yeah,
interesting.
because I know like a lot of my cousins when they travel abroad, it's like so brief because they don't have that much
Mm-hmm.
vacation. But as a kid in Sweden, you always used to have like 2 months for summer vacation
Ah,
from
I
school.
see.
So we always
Mm-hmm.
used to go and stay the full months. Uh,
Nice.
so yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, I was back in 2018 last.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and I've been wanting to go ever since, but it's been hard for obvious reasons.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
now it should be a little bit easier, right?
yeah, definitely. So
Yeah.
hopefully I can go sometime this year.
Hopefully. So,
Yeah,
why the particular interest with Haw Par Villa? Like, was it a place that you used to visit a lot?
yeah. Like when I was a kid, we always used to go there. It's always been like some kind of like key location. Like every trip, we had to go to Haw Par Villa
Oh,
somehow. So it
whoa.
kind of became like some kind of tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And like still to this day, if I'm in Singapore, if I don't go there, the trip just doesn't feel complete somehow.
Wow. What
Yeah.
is it about
So
that place? Was it just like a ritual thing that you guys just always went there and you feel familiar with it, or was it something about that park, or like the, culture, or like the statues, the weird statues that really drew you guys to it?
yeah, I mean nowadays I kind of maybe have a different view of it
Mm.
because I just think the park is so beautiful with all the hand painted sculptures, and some are really weird, but in a
Yeah.
really good way, I think.
Yeah.
And it has such a beautiful atmosphere, and but when I was a kid, I have really vivid memories of going there, and there used to be like an acrobatic show in the theater,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and I have
wow.
really strong memories of that. And there were like characters from all the Chinese legends walking around in costumes, and you could take pictures with them. And I
Wow.
really used to love like the Monkey King and things like
Yep.
that. So yeah, I just have a lot of strong memories, and it's kind of like some kind of grounding thing, like going to Singapore. I always have to go there. It's like some kind of anchor in a way, and
Oh,
yeah,
I see. Cool. Yeah, that's
somehow.
really interesting. I didn't know that they used to have like those like acrobats and all those things happening. But
Yeah.
I'm curious to know as well, like, because you mentioned that these songs have come about across like a 10-year span, and you've
Hmm.
been involved in lots of different projects during this time as well, right? So
Hmm.
can you share a little bit about like how you started to get into like the music industry, or like the creative industry?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I remember since when I was quite young, I saw the movie The Crow on TV. Do you know
Mm-hmm.
which movie it is?
Is
With
it the
Brandon Lee.
scary one?
Yeah, it's a bit scary, like quite
Okay.
goth and
I think
quite
I've
dark.
I've heard of it, but I've not watched it.
Yeah, so like I always watched Bruce Lee movies since I was really
Mm-hmm.
young because my dad's like a martial artist, so it was
Oh,
what was offered in the
wow.
house. So we always used to watch Bruce Lee movies. So from that I kind of found out about The Crow because it's his son who plays the main character.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this amazing scene in that movie where he's like playing electric guitar on like a burning rooftop, and is just amazing. So from
Mhm.
that moment on, I wanted to play guitar. And then
Wow.
it kind of took a few years before I really
Mhm.
started playing guitar. I played violin for a few years and played some
Mhm.
drums. And but then I really started getting more into guitar and that type of a thing.
Cool. So basically, like, even how you started getting into music is very inspired and influenced by your heritage as well, because like Bruce Lee is
Definitely,
a cultural icon, right?
definitely, yeah. I
Wow.
think,
But yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think yes, because yeah, as I said, like my dad's a martial artist as well. So I think also from martial arts, there's a lot from that kind of spilled over into many aspects of my life,
Mm-hmm.
like the music and like how I practice and like the discipline and something about like dedicating your
Right.
life to something and yeah,
Cool.
things
That's
like
a
that.
really interesting combination. So did your dad teach you
Yeah.
martial arts when you
Yeah, it's like since I was really young, we started practicing martial arts. It
Mhm.
was actually like the way we played at home. It was like
Mhm.
through learning martial
Sparring?
arts. Yeah, yeah, sparring and pads and everything.
Cool.
Yeah,
What kind of martial arts does he do, or like does he do all kinds?
he's a taekwondo grandmaster. So
Oh,
he came to Sweden in the late 70s to teach, and from there on, my mom started training, and yeah, the
the
rest
rest is
history.
history.
Yeah.
Awesome. So
Mm.
he's Singaporean.
He's Singaporean, exactly.
Ah, got it, got it.
Mm.
So I think that's such a cool like concept, and I can totally see how your culture is really ingrained into your music
Mm.
in such a way. Would you say that it's rare to find musicians such as yourself in Sweden as well, who have this kind of background, who's making this kind of music? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think maybe it is. I definitely feel that there's something unique about like my mix of culture and the style
Mm,
I play. I think, and
cool.
also I do like have some kind of plans in the future to like maybe take it even further.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I've become really inspired by like Beijing opera and the
Mm,
percussion they use, and I
mm.
love those rhythms. So I want to like incorporate that somehow. And also, I have an uncle who sings really good. And he sings a lot in Mandarin. He's like
Oh,
he just
nice.
does a lot of busking in Singapore, and I want to try
Okay.
to like
That's
to
really
like get him into
cool.
the music somehow. Yeah,
Awesome. That you must
yeah,
have like a very like creative family, I feel.
yeah. I think so. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So I can definitely tell from like I really enjoyed reading the stories about each of the songs as well. Like you shared a lot
Mhm.
about that on your Instagram and stuff. Can you share a little bit with our listeners? Like what is your favorite song on the album and like the story
Hmm.
behind it?
Yeah, so I think it can be kind of hard to choose because it can depend on the day and my mood. But if I have to
Mm.
choose, I think I'd say maybe Snake Eyes because it's a song that I
Mm.
really love to play,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a track that I dedicated to my dad actually. And the title refers to us both being born in the year of the snake. My dad in 1953 and me in '89. And yeah, I guess I don't know what it's like for you, but sometimes I just reflect on like because being from two cultures, I can sometimes kind of see how like different cultures kind of show affection to each other, and I feel
Mm-hmm.
like maybe some of my Swedish friends and in some other cultures, I noticed that people are kind of more verbal with their affection and kind of really physical, but I feel like maybe in Asia and Singapore there are other ways that you show affection, like with actions and how you take care of each other in other ways.
Mm.
And I feel like my dad has really always been there for me and been really important in my life. And like still to this day, I mean, I'm a grown man, but he'll still come knocking on my door with like cabbage and tofu because he knows what I love to eat.
Aw,
So
that's
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. So yeah, he just always goes out of his way to make my life easier. Like even if I try to say I don't need his help, he'll be there for me.
Mm.
So I guess this was kind of my way to try to show gratitude and affection to him because it can be really hard to express
Mm.
those things even to the people who are the closest. So
Yeah, definitely. I think different, as you mentioned, like different cultures show affection in different ways. And I feel like in Singapore it's not very or in Asian culture, it's very subtle. Like there are very few families that will say, "Oh, hey, I love you, man," and like give you a hug or whatever. It's more about like, "Oh, have you eaten yet?" Or like giving you your favorite food until you tell them, "I don't want to eat this anymore," that kind of thing. So that's really beautiful. Yeah, that you have that connection with your dad and you wanted to put it into the song. Yeah.
Thank you.
And you mentioned, you mentioned that your Instagram handle is Hokkien Snake, which I find very interesting because I'm guessing snake is because you're born in the year of the snake.
Exactly.
And is your father Hokkien? Like, do you
nice.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
That's really, as in, I found that really interesting because usually the West people don't really go down to like the nitty-gritty of like your heritage. And like for myself, like I actually grew up in Australia, but when it was only when I came back and started living in Singapore that I started delving a little bit more into not just me as a Singaporean, my identity as a Singaporean, but like my identity as a Hokkien person, because my family is also Hokkien. Because sometimes my people would tell me like, oh, like you eat so Hokkien, like your taste is so Hokkien, and I'm like, what does that even mean? I'm not really sure, So then I found it really interesting that it seems like it's a very big part of your identity. So I just wanted to ask a little bit more about that. Like, what role has Hokkien culture played in your life?
Yeah, I guess I do feel some kind of like pride to be part of this kind of culture in a way, like in a wholesome way, I guess. And and I do think like the Hokkien culture and the Hokkien vibe is something unique and something special. And
I mean, I think it's very intangible though. Like I feel like it was very hard for me to grasp like what it actually means to be Hokkien. Whereas I think
what would you say are some key elements of it? Do you speak Hokkien?
A little bit because my grandfather can't speak English. Yeah, tampo. Yeah. That's a very good question. I don't know. Like you can think about that too, because for me it's like
there is something though, I feel.
Yeah, like I mean it started for me because like my auntie was asking me like, or she was telling me, as I mentioned, like you're very Hokkien in the way you eat. And she said, I said, why is that? And then she said, oh, because you like to put a lot of like sauce like in your food, like in your rice. Like you can't have food with dry. Yeah.
That's
yeah. So she told me that. And then she told me that like, certain people, like for example, if you're Peranakan or something, then you like to have your food another way. Like and you like all those different like spices and things like that, which I don't really like. Actually, I'm also like a quarter Peranakan, but I'm not. I think I'm more Hokkien in the way I eat, according to her. Yeah. And then I guess it's really about like just bits and pieces that my family tell me. So like sometimes they'll just share a little bit, oh, like this is just what we do. Yeah
exactly.
So
I can definitely relate.
So I don't know,
especially the thing with the sauce in the rice is
I love sauce in my rice as much as
everyone
possible.
else is like always keeps commenting when I eat. When you see me do that.
So I think maybe food is a very important differentiator, because definitely like for people who are Cantonese, people who are Hakka, they all have like different kinds of food. But I mean, I don't really talk about this with people a lot, so I don't know if my observations are accurate.
But I think there are, especially because it's your kind of how you perceive it. So I think so. And also one thing that I maybe reflect on sometimes is because why it's so important to me is because like being a child of two cultures, like I think a lot of bicultural people have this kind of strange feeling of, on the one hand, you feel like you're really part of both. Exactly. But at the same time, like when I go to Singapore, people always ask me where I'm from because I don't really look like super Singaporean. And when I'm in Sweden, people will ask me the same thing because I don't really look Swedish. So at the same time, you kind of feel like you don't really belong anywhere. Like you're kind of your own thing and your own.
Exactly.
So you always have to navigate this you have to navigate this kind of identity search in a way.
Exactly.
And I always felt like my Asian and Singaporean heritage was like a big part of me. So I guess I was always drawn to that and kind of had to like find little ways to nourish that part and kind of keep it alive.
Definitely. I mean, I guess
yeah.
it's like maybe a little bit tiring as well. Like you have to keep explaining yourself when that is your identity. Like it's what you resonate with the most. And I can totally relate, because like basically the show Everywhere and Nowhere is titled as such because of my heritage. Like as a third culture kid, like I feel like I'm everywhere, but I'm also like nowhere at the same time. But I guess for me, because I look clearly Asian, so like when I'm in Australia, like people some of them, they can tell that I'm, I have an accent. So they're like, oh, you know, are you from Singapore? Are you from wherever? And I'm like, you know what? I've lived here for like over half my life. Like, yes, just because I have an accent doesn't mean that I am not like like I don't have significant experiences in this country. And then moving back to Singapore as well, like I feel it's the other way around, like because I do have like family here, so they'll very immediately assume that I know a lot about Singapore and just be like, oh, why don't you know this? Why don't you know that? I'm like, well, I just came back,
Exactly,
so it's it's same, it's different, but the same. Yeah. So I really I really relate to. So you mentioned that you haven't been back to Singapore like for quite a while now. Guessing obviously because of COVID and stuff. But the next time that you're back in Singapore, like what would you say is like the number one thing that you would like to do? And what is the number one thing that you want to eat?
There's so much, I don't know where to begin. But
okay, you can give a couple. I'll give you a couple. Okay. Yeah.
So really sad that they're tearing down Timing Halt. I think at the moment. So our grandma used to have an apartment there, but it got relocated to Queenstown now. So we kind of have a place there. So I'm really looking forward to checking that place out and see what that's like. So I'm looking forward to that. And also I've been like vegan for like 16 years. So there's like so much Singaporean food that I've been missing.
Yes,
it's like
definitely
traditional Singapore food, but now there are a lot of vegan and vegetarian restaurants opening up. I noticed. So I definitely look forward to having like some vegan fishball noodles or meatball.
Nice.
Yeah, or some laksa. I know the Green Dot has a pretty good laksa. And, I'm looking forward to going with my girlfriend as well. So like showing her all my favorite places, showing her Haw Par Villa, of course.
Yes, of course.
And she's half Korean, so we're probably gonna do like some kind of little Asian
tour.
So
cool. I think that's it for our time today. Thank you so much, Andy, for sharing, your story with us. I'm so happy that we got this chance to catch up.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you wanted to share with our listeners, or, plug your socials or anything like that?
Yeah, my Instagram is Hokkien Snake, as we said. So you should keep people updated there. And I think, and my album is called Haw Par Villa. It's on all streaming platforms and so on. So it's been great being here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Andy.